Right then, Alex, so first one, what does the term coaching philosophy mean to you?
Coaching philosophy to me basically means a range of things. This can be from your general approach to coaching, what things you value as a coach, what things you value in your players, and what sort of belief sets that you try and instill in your players. It also means your kind of your strategy to coaching, and I guess the coaching methods that you employ. Whether you're somebody who can employ different methods, or whether your philosophy is a certain method, so whether you're an autocratic coach through and through, or whether you're somebody who can mould different coaching philosophies, or whether you empower your athletes to sort of take the burden on their shoulders. So philosophy for me encapsulates coaching theory and principles, and where you sit with them. It encapsulates like value and belief sets, and I guess it's also linked into what is your end goal with that group of people, whether it's elite excellence, or whether it's participation, whether you're having a bit of fun, whether it's the be all and end all. That really does impact on how you go about interacting with people, and how much knowledge you're looking to impart on them, and how critical you are.
Okay, that's a pretty good start. Can I ask where you've got that understanding from? Because that's quite a lengthy, detailed answer. So is that from the coaching pathway, or is that from an academic pathway?
I guess a combination of both, I'd say. I mean, been coached by an awful lot of people in different sports. I think if you're someone who is in coaching, you by default mirror some of the best coaching that you've seen, and pick up those points. So I think I don't know whether this applies to all coaches, but me personally, I'm an amalgamation of what I perceive to be the best things from a lot of the coaches who I've seen, but also coaching qualifications and studying it academically. You pick up a lot of theory, you pick up a lot of best practice, you try it out. If it works for you, then great. I mean, a lot of it again is if you're coaching a sport in which you've been coached a lot yourself, I think you innately would pick up a lot of drills and practices that you've enjoyed, that you've particularly benefited from, and you use them, rightly or wrongly, because they might not actually be what the right thing for your athletes is, but you loved them, you thought they worked great, so off you go. So it's definitely a mixture. A lot of it is learned experiences of other people. Some of it will be looking at models of best practice from academic study, trying it out, and if you're sort of seeing those results, then I think that lives with you.
All right, excellent. You started to touch on it a little bit there.
Yep.
What is your coaching philosophy, and do you formally write it down?
My coaching philosophy is basically I don't think I have a set philosophy. I think my philosophy adapts to the people that I'm coaching. Does that make this thing difficult for you, or is that okay?
Ideal, yeah.
So I think my philosophy. So for example, if I look at the college group that I've worked with for a number of years, that my philosophy would be very different to some of the higher level squads that I've worked with. Where my philosophy with the college team would be more about a lot of things around self-confidence, self-esteem, fundamentals, whereas obviously with the academy teams I've been with the semi-pro teams I've been with in the past, the rigour of what you're doing is a lot more, so my philosophy would be a lot more about accuracy, about attitude, those sorts of things. So I don't have a set philosophy. I will mould to the people I'm working with, but also the situation in which I'm coaching as well.
Okay, so the attitude you would want from a college standard player, from say semi-pro National League player standard would be different?
Yeah, I think aspirationally they'd be the same, but I wouldn't necessarily expect them to be the same. You'd encourage the lower level athlete to try and think like an academy level player, but it's not necessarily going to happen. So you try and instill those beliefs, but I think the expectation would be very, very different obviously you want them to turn up on time, you want them to engage in what you're doing, and you want them to enjoy it. Whereas you take that as read with an academy semi-pro player, you want them to be enthusiastic about improving, you want them to go the extra mile to improve, you want dedication, and you don't necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily demand that of a college student.
Okay. And do you formally write that philosophy down, or have you ever?
No, never. As I said, you're probably picking up that I don't really have a philosophy. Therefore, I kind of like to get to know the groups, be a bit more reactional than actually say, this is my philosophy, this is what I'm going to go down. Because if you have a set philosophy and you find it doesn't work, I don't think that leaves you very much room for manoeuvre and whatnot. I think you're better off having the flexibility to adapt.
Yeah. Okay. So although it's not formally written down philosophy, how do those values and beliefs you've outlined there affect the content of your training sessions?
Well, for example, if we're talking about a college team, let's talk about a high level team. So I was talking about dedication, wanting to go the extra mile, those sorts of things. If I'm doing a training session and I'm not seeing that happen, then I'll make a snap change and instill a different drill or some fears that will highlight that and try and change that sort of behaviour. So if my philosophy is if I'm not seeing it in action in my sessions, I will change that session quite quickly and on a regular basis as well, so that those athletes know exactly what sort of in this aspect a value or a behaviour that I'm after. So I think it would affect it in that if I'm not seeing it happen, I would change it very, very quickly and whatnot.
But you wouldn't use those physical practices. You wouldn't use that as a tool in the same way with a college standard team.
Less so, just because the expectation's a bit lower. But you could still do it. I mean, if you weren't getting compliance, with the semi-pro teams, it's very rare that they're not doing it. They might not just be doing it to the level you want or quite doing it right. But with a college team, you might have kids who are just like, right, I can't be doing this anymore. I'm bored or whatever, or I don't see the value. And then it's a very different scenario. You've got to re-engage them back into the session. So I think you do it, but just in a different way. All
right. How do you think rugby players aged 16 to 19 should be developed?
Again, depending on their level of ability. Do you want me to?
You can come at that from how you want. You could take college players. You could take college players, semi-pro. You could take both. However.
Yeah, I like the idea of like pathway opportunities. That's something that stood me in good stead. Having levels of representation that you can aspire to, and there might only be little things, so you start off playing for your college, and then the local colleges in that area get together and there's like a regional colleges team. It's not a big honour, but it's a little step up. Someone gets into that, gives them that little bit of inspiration to say, I might want to be a county player. So I think having development pathways that have got lots of rungs on that ladder, and give people realistic aspirations. It's not just, I play for my college and the next step is to represent the whole of the South East. You're cutting down a lot of people's opportunities to differentiate themselves from other people. So I really like the idea of a strong development pathway. How do I think rugby players should be developed? It's really open-ended, mate. Can you tie that down a little bit more?
Yeah. So you're planning their coaching program.
Yeah.
What's going to make up that coaching program?
Okay. So with the college players, fundamental skills is key.
Yeah.
You have such a range of ability, but generally, ball handling, the ability to run in a straight line and not drift when you're attacking.
Yeah.
Some of the fundamentals of the game that you would pick up as a level 1 coach and would have been taught if you'd have been in a junior rugby setup with a club are often not here. So with a college rugby team, it's about developing a core set of fundamental skills and knowledge that you can basically means you can turn up to a game with 15 players who are coherent and more of a team than relying on your 4 or 5 star players to carry the camp for you. So it will be all about fundamentals, bit of fitness as well, although at college level you don't get enough time with the athletes to really develop them physically. So you have to lean on them to do their fears. Some do, some don't. It's all about getting their fundamentals right. So, you know, they're better rugby players in inverted commas than their opposition.
So you'd prioritise the technical development over physical
at college level. At college level, yeah.
The technical development you just described there, passing, running lines.
Yeah.
How would that compare to academy,
national
so league level?
So obviously an expectation that whilst you wouldn't neglect it, there's an expectation that the core skills are there.
Yeah.
So you would look at how those skills would be put under pressure in different situations, how they'd need to be adapted against certain defences. It's putting those skills much more in game-related situations and working with those players so that they can make decisions in a game that are going to potentially be effective, as opposed to just, you know, all right, we can pass and run straight. That's a given. What am I going to do against the rush defence? You know, in that situation, what am I going to do? In certain parts of the field, a lot more strategic and more creative as well. That, you know, they're basic core fundamentals.
Okay. And how you would set about achieving that would differ between college players and national.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, it's going to take you to develop a college team. It's going to take you a lot longer to do that. Obviously, with a semi-pro team, the knowledge and skills are there to be worked on already. You potentially can have more contact time with those people as well. So you'd expect to see those results a lot quicker than with a college team. So so you might be a little bit more intense. Your progressions will be bigger. Your progressions with the college team will be a lot smaller and over a bigger length of time to give them a chance to process that.
Yeah.
And always at that time you'd be dropping back in and revisiting those fundamentals, because there's no point in teaching them different running lines if they can't master a simple basic running line.
Yeah. All right. You can interpret this one again how you want. What do you believe makes an effective coach-athlete relationship?
Many things. Like, obviously, the usual professionalism of a coach. I mean, attitude reflects leadership. If you're late, they're late. If you're scruffy, they're scruffy. So all those sorts of things. It's important that the coach sets the marker for how you want those people to behave, and then also develops relationships. So those players actually want to step up to those set characteristics or set boundaries of behaviour. So I'm going to set them, and then I'm going to work to develop relationships with my players so that they aspire to set them, and it's not a punishment or seen as a drag for them to bring themselves up to that level of conduct on and off the field. Communication. It annoys me when coaches see something bad happening, or they see bad practice, they see errors, and they don't correct them. There's obviously a good way to correct errors, to make sure you're not putting that person down and they're seeing it in a positive way. But you should always correct bad practice, because you're doing your athletes a disservice if you don't, as a coach. If you're letting them repeat bad skills or poor practice, they're going to do that all the time. So part of me thinks, as a coach, you should be constantly making sure, if it means stopping the session, and if it means not quite getting the outcomes at the end of the session, then I think that's a good thing, because in the long run you'll have better players. So vigilance, I guess that is vigilance on making sure that perfect practice is there all the time, developing those relationships, and sharing a common goal as well. There's no point in the coach wanting to win the league if the players are just there for the crack.
Okay, so is that all coach led, or is that player led?
Again, depends on the scenario. I mean, in college it's difficult, because some of your athletes you'll have to really drive that home as a coach, but a lot of your athletes will be on that wavelength with you, because they want to win really badly. They want to walk around the college as one of the rugby boys, so they want everything that goes with that. So you can work with a lot of the players and give them a lot of responsibility to G up and work with a lot of the team to develop that ethos. It's not always you driving it. It's like, right, get the lads talking amongst themselves and develop that as a unit, really. Okay,
and does that cross over into style of play, tactics, or is that coach led?
No, I think at college level you get certain people who can really help you in coaching sessions, especially if a lot of them are being coached well through the junior setup. They bring a lot of good ideas. Again, going back to the whole thing, coaching philosophies, being consultative and listening to your athletes is important. They might have a phase play with their club that works really well, and who am I as coach to not give that the time of day and have a look at it? And I'm only going to know that by empowering that student to speak to the rest of the team and get it going on. We'll have a look at it, discuss it, and then move on. So, yeah, certainly at college level, you can definitely lean on the athletes around all aspects, really.
Okay, awesome. Last one.
Yep.
So as coach of that college team.
Yep.
So 16 to 19-year-olds, kind of participation standard. What do you see your role being as their coach?
A couple of things really, like motivator, facilitator, educator. I'm just banging out all the usuals here for you, but it's an amalgamation because at college level you have such a range of athletes. So you have, in a rugby team, you'll have 7 or 8 really good players, and you'll have 3 or 4 newbies who want to come and experience something different. So as a coach, your interaction with those people is very, very different, but ultimately you want, as I said before, you want to share the same goal. So I think again you have to be adaptive and look at your relationship with different athletes within that team at college level. You really do, and like some of them you can bring in and they're almost your assistant coaches at times. And then the new players sort of look up to them and learn from them. And with the new players you are much more kind of hands-on, directing them, fundamentals, all that sort of stuff. And with the better players, you're giving them a little bit more freedom to express themselves and contribute and stuff. So what do you believe the role of an effective coach to be? At the level that I'm talking about, just flexibility and having an open mind, and be willing to, and not have that just one set rigid philosophy or approach, because you'll bring some people with you and some people you won't.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much.
Is that all right?